Everybody, welcome to the Monday Night Raw review. It's Tuesday, October 29th, 2024. Hope everybody's enjoying the beginning of their week here on these last few days of October, heading into this weekend, and then obviously big week next week, election week. But more importantly for wrestling fans, this weekend is Crown Jewel, and we all get to finally discover who is going to be the Crown Jewel champion. I know a lot of us are on the edge of our seats. We just can't wait to find out who WWE anoints as Crown Jewel champion. We've been thinking about this for years, pontificating, hoping, praying that we get some kind of championship for the PLE that we all love and we know, Crown Jewel. And we finally have it. So our prayers have been answered. This prestigious championship with the length of lineage that it has, the depth of lineage, it's here. Can't wait. I know you all are excited too. But we'll have the official preview and predictions later this week with all of our in-depth coverage, of course, and post-review shows and all of that coming to you this weekend. I will get that to you by Sunday, maybe during the day. I'll try to get it out. I really do try to get it out as early as I can and get you guys my thoughts. And I want to hear yours too, because a lot of times I'm wrong. And WWE throws a curveball, or some of you guys see things coming that I didn't. So, interested to hear your predictions. Obviously, the mailbag show comes to you Friday as well. So, let's get into Monday Night Raw. And a decent Raw. I think one that didn't... I always say it's a decent Raw. I feel like I say it's a decent Raw every week, but it hasn't been very volatile when it comes to the quality of the Raw episodes as of late anyway. I feel like things have been kind of holding steady, and that's not a bad thing. I think that it's been generally a positive coming out of every Monday Night Raw. I know a lot of us are looking past Crown Jewel, going ahead to the Survivor Series PLE, which yes, I am as well in a lot of ways. But the PLE for Crown Jewel, despite all of the controversy that does surround it every single time that they go to Riyadh, it is a card that is worthy of a PLE. If it wasn't under the Crown Jewel brand, I think a lot of us wouldn't look at this as kind of a PLE that we want to skip. But most of us don't, based on the numbers. WWE knows that even though we all... a lot of us have issues with it, we still watch. So that's ultimately what matters. And we've got a lot of decent matchups coming up this coming Saturday night. But let's talk about Raw. I want to start with Seth Rollins and Bronson Reed. This program, much like the Braun Strowman matchup with Bronson Reed that we didn't know we all wanted. And you notice Braun Strowman has kind of disappeared. But Bronson Reed is exceptionally fun to watch backstage. And the company knows this clearly, because most of Bronson Reed's interactions over the last 2 months, most of his brawls have been outside of the squared circle. Watching him destroy things is a fun pastime of ours. And is it getting a little formulaic? Kinda. I mean, they can't live backstage forever with Bronson Reed. They eventually need to put him in the ring to have actual matches more than they put him backstage. And so it's not a sustainable strategy, but it's one that puts him on the map right now. It's one that the fans look at and go, all right, we have a Bronson Reed brawl backstage. What are they going to destroy tonight? And who's going to take the bigger bump? And I thought particularly the moment with Seth Rollins and the stomp of Bronson Reed's skull onto the car was cool. And not just because of the stomp itself, which was well done, and Bronson Reed continues to sell very well. It was more of because of Seth Rollins' declaration to the camera after the fact saying, you guys have forgotten who I am and what I'm capable of. And it's like, okay, yeah, man, we haven't seen you do brutal stuff like this in a while because you've been too worried about your entrance music being sung by fans and wearing ridiculous outfits to the ring. And we've kind of missed that part of you. And it did trigger something for me. Back to a more brutal, violent Seth Rollins. But so that was part one. Part two that I thought was really cool was the camera was angled just enough where Bronson Reed in the distance was over the shoulder of Seth Rollins, and you could see him getting up, and you're just like, oh my God, because just like anybody, I mean, you would think that that's kind of the end of the segment. Seth Rollins stands victorious. Not that it was a match, but he got the better of Bronson Reed here, and you're just like, oh my God, Bronson Reed's getting up, and he attacks Seth Rollins. They go into a production truck. Both of them get in there, and a Death Valley driver of sorts on Seth Rollins through a bunch of setup tables for a nice crash pad, nice safe, but fun landing. I'm not going to get on them for it being safe. I have no problem with safety, and it looked as good as a safe bump can look outside. So Bronson Reed ends up getting the better of Seth when you figured that was kind of the end of the segment after the stomp. So well done by both men. This is, yes, a hold me over program for Seth. Yes, he will get to CM Punk. Do I think it's at Survivor Series? Maybe. Maybe Seth Rollins and Punk go after each other at Survivor Series. Or they do delay it till WrestleMania 41. I honestly don't have a preference. Usually I feel strongly about these things. If I had a choice, I guess I'd go with Seth and Punk at WrestleMania 41, because it's been such a build and such a long time, and you could make good on last year's injury to Punk, and I think it would be very poetic. But do we also have bigger opponents in mind for Punk and Rollins at WrestleMania? I will say this. Here's a big clue that at WrestleMania, WWE has bigger names in mind for Punk and Rollins than each other if they face each other at Survivor Series. So if they end up facing each other at Survivor Series, WWE has bigger ideas in mind for both Punk and Seth at WrestleMania 41. Okay, you heard it here first, because they're not going to do both. Okay, this program might be a one and done. It could be. But it also could be I don't think it'd be a Drew McIntyre length, but there's some other key guys that when you're looking ahead to Crown Jewel that you're thinking to yourself, okay, could they show up? Drew, Punk, what about Roman? I think all three are likely to appear. But I don't think all three will, and we'll talk about the predictions as we get later into the week on Friday. So anyway, let's get into the nitty-gritty of Raw. I just wanted to talk about that off the top with something positive. Let's start at the beginning of the show. I like to kind of bring it back to some kind of order here. So we had, of course, Joe Tessitore and Wade at the broadcast table, and they spoke about Trick Williams retaining the NXT Championship at the NXT Halloween Havoc event. And we got some recaps and SmackDown where Motor City Machine Guns beat Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa to win the tag titles. And Jey Uso was then shown with fans in the concourse, and he made his way through the crowd. And Jey said he lost his title and he had family drama. He said he had to retaliate and cost the Bloodline the tag team titles. He said there's only one person he wanted to speak with, and that person knows who he is. Jimmy Uso comes out, and once in the ring, Jimmy thanked Jey for what he did on SmackDown, and Jimmy said they need to be together to take Solo's Bloodline down. Jimmy said they're not the only ones, and Jey said they're not the only ones either, or not the ones either. Jey said the last time he saw Jimmy was at WrestleMania and they were fighting each other. He said a lot has happened since then and noted he became IC champ. And Jimmy held out his hand, and Jey said they still had to fix things. Jey said they do. They're nobody's do-boys, side pieces, or yes men. Jey said they are grown men, and if they do this, they do it together as the Usos. And the Usos got a pretty big pop. Jimmy told Jey that Roman will be at Friday's SmackDown and invited Jey to talk with him, and Jey said he would be there. Jimmy held out his hand again, but he noticed that there was somebody coming into the ring, which were Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa. And things were pretty evenly matched up until we got Jacob Fatu, who was ordered by Solo to get into the ring, and Fatu sets up for a move. Jay threw the chair at him after he tried to wrap it around his neck. Jimmy got free, and the Usos did their obligatory 74 super kicks, per match, per show, and hit a double super kick on Jacob Fatu. Gets knocked out of the ring, and Adam Pearce and a group of referees and security guards came out to stand between them to going into the commercial break. So, man, Jey Uso, let me tell you, despite the fact that WWE, I think, did him dirty with his, and it's weird saying that given that fact that he was Intercontinental Champion, one of the most prestigious titles in the company with the lineage that it has. It's weird saying it, but his first title run, I think, should have meant more. And as I've said many times over the last week, it was used as a prop to get him to the Bloodline reunion, which I've said it didn't need this to have Jay be convinced to go back. In fact, I think it would have made more sense and meant more if it didn't take a title loss to rejoin his bloodline, because they're blood, they're family. You don't need a reason more than that, right? But they did what they did, and I know why they did it. So, but Jey Uso, I think, and here's a prediction for 2025. Jey Uso becomes world champion. Not WWE Undisputed Universal Champion, okay? Not the Undisputed Championship, the World Championship. So I think Gunther could drop it at some point to Jey Uso. I don't think he'll drop it to Punk, although Punk did claim he was going after it a couple of months ago after the middle of the Drew program. And they went into their third match with Hell in a Cell. But I think Jey Uso is a front runner to be the one to take the belt off of Gunther. And I actually wouldn't mind that when the time is right. I don't want Gunther going on a 4.5-year reign. Okay, I don't need a Roman Reigns length. I do need something that's significant and memorable. And when he loses, it means something. And he loses to the right guy, more importantly. And I think post-WrestleMania, you're looking at maybe, next year's early spring and summer, SummerSlam. Even at WrestleMania, you could make a case to me, but Jey Uso's ready to be the guy if they want him to be. The company knows who and what he is. The fans have a hell of a connection with him, more than his brother. And I don't know how long this reuniting is going to last. We'll see. And a lot to discuss after they reunite, and how long it lasts, and all the rest. All right. We had then backstage Adam Pearce yelling at Nick Aldis, and Pearce said he agreed to let Jimmy Uso appear on Raw, but he didn't agree to let the Bloodline appear. And Pearce told Aldis that he needs to control his damn roster and said he would call him back. I love this. Are they listening to me? Is somebody in creative listening to this show? Because I'm the only one who seems to care about this, at least from the shows and commentary I've heard. It's nice to see them actually, even for a moment, and this is all I'm asking for. I'm not asking for it to be a big deal that needs to run several segments. It literally can be solved with a phone call for 10 seconds, which is exactly what we got here, of Pearce and Aldis talking about how their stars should not be on their show. Right? The SmackDown stars shouldn't be on their show, and vice versa. Thank you. Now, consistency on this is going to vary. Right? Your mileage may vary on this, as they say, but at least for a night, they acknowledge that the brands splits do exist. I'm not confident that they're going to continue that, but I did enjoy that. Okay. We then had Ludwig Kaiser versus Sheamus. This match went nearly 10 minutes. Really fun match. Physical. The fans seem to be very much behind Sheamus, who's, in that legacy role right now, and he did beat Ludwig Kaiser with a brogue kick, some hard chops as you'd expect. Sheamus is just an absolute beast of a human being, and Ludwig Kaiser is also kind of stalled. He's sometimes the lackey for Gunther, and sometimes he's not. Sometimes he's doing his own thing. Sometimes he's not. It's kind of weird where Kaiser is. I'm not really sure. I don't think they know. But for Sheamus, he's also in a weird spot because he doesn't get a ton of time to talk. He had his little spat with Pete Dunne, i.e. Butch. They had a fun program. That seems to be on the back burner for now. They might revisit it, but then Kaiser's there. I don't know where Sheamus is going. He's in a legacy role right now. He'll never likely be at the top ever again in terms of a top champion, but he's certainly a Hall of Famer, and he can still work. So he's in an interesting spot right now. He has star power behind him. He's got respect behind him from fans and backstage alike. So you do wonder what his role is moving forward for Sheamus. But all right. Rhea Ripley had a promo and said a video promo. And she said Raquel Rodriguez tried to paint a pretty picture of herself last week. And she said Rodriguez betrayed her with malice and ego, whereas what she's done to her and Liv has been deserved. Ripley conceded she's made mistakes in the past and she only cares about regaining the Women's World Championship. She added that Rodriguez and Morgan would have to kill her to stop her. A lot of death. A lot of death being brought into wrestling as of late. You'd have to kill me to stop me. Even Drew and Punk talked about that in their promos up to Hell in a Cell. You have to kill me to stop me. I guess Rhea Ripley, she's continuing to say this, and I don't. I have mixed feelings about it because you're never actually going to follow through with that. Like, no one's actually going to do that, so you know off the bat that that's just hyperbole. But it also elevates the seriousness of her statement, so I'll leave it at that. Backstage, the Usos crossed paths with Sami, and that's where Jimmy, he looked at Jimmy while asking Jay if they could speak alone. Jimmy and Zayn kind of stared at one another, and then Jay asked Jimmy to let him speak with Zayn. Zayn asked Jay if everything was really cool now after everything Jimmy did to him. He wondered if Jay was really going to speak with Reigns. He said he thinks Solo is worse than Roman. And Jay told Sami it sounded like he was on Sikoa's side. Zayn said he's not on anyone's side, which is weird. It's weird. Sami Zayn in his promo said, "I'm not on anyone's side." And then he said that he's on his side or something. Like, he completely negated everything he just said. He's like, "I'm not taking sides. I'm on my side," or on yours, something like that. Something to the effect of, he said he's not on anyone's side, and then immediately the next sentence declared he's on someone's side. Anyway, he told Jay that he didn't have to choose sides and go back, and that he wouldn't understand. Jay told Zayn, this is the zinger. So Jay told Zayn he wouldn't understand because he's not family. So there's a little tension there with Jay and Sami. Obviously, this is not going to lead to anything. Let's hope not. Imagine if they start another civil war, like it's Jay versus Sami and Jimmy attacks Roman. Oh my God. They can't, and they would not, but that's all done and over. Any tension you see with any of these men is long past. We've done every combination of people turning on one another. It's done. It's over. It's about reuniting, and then maybe they go back to their separate ways. So, all right. We've got Gunther featured in a video promo. He spoke about Cody, and he's the golden boy for everyone, and labeled him a gutless champion. Gunther said Cody drags everyone into everyone else's business, including Orton, and then he hyped the SmackDown Tag Team match and told Cody to ask Orton what it's like to be choked out by him. Gunther said the same thing would happen to Cody and then called him a secondary champion. All right, so quick, solid promo from Gunther there, hyping up SmackDown. Again, crossover. Anyway, Zelina Vega comes out. She was with Joaquin Wilde and Cruz del Toro. She took on Ivy Nile, who was with the Creed brothers. So in this case, Ivy Nile beats Zelina Vega. Kind of surprising, honestly. I thought Zelina had a little bit of momentum. There's a small movement starting for Zelina on the internet. They didn't give it to her here. So I was a bit surprised, a little disappointed too, with Zelina Vega not getting the victory here. Again, not the worst thing in the world. She just kind of she's just the same. I mean, I don't think anything has really changed with her career here with this match, but certainly it's just kind of telling of where they are, taking the temperature of her career in a current state in WWE is kind of what this told me. So, backstage, again, the Bloodline reunion continues as Jimmy asked Jay how his talk with Sami Zayn went, and Jay recalled telling Zayn that he wasn't family. And Jimmy said, well, he's not. Jay said that Sami stepped up when Jimmy left, and Jimmy asked Jay to let him talk to Sami. Jay was worried that something bad would happen, but Jimmy assured him that they would just talk. Seth Rollins was showing them backstage, and we're hyping up Rollins here, who comes out, and he said that Bronson Reed is reminding him of what he's capable of, and he kind of likes it. We do too, Seth. We do too. That's when Bronson Reed interrupts, and Reed said he promised Adam Pearce that he wouldn't cause chaos. Reed said if Rollins wants to hunt a monster, then he was waiting in the parking lot. And Rollins told Reed not to move, and then a camera followed Rollins backstage. Adam Pearce, as he does every week, busts a blood vessel in his head, yelling, and he's trying to stop Rollins by saying he's already had his match, but Rollins blew him off. Reed tossed a security guard aside in the parking lot, and Rollins arrived and fought him. So, and we all know the rest as I described about what happened with the Death Valley driver to end it and the stomp on the car. So, two things here. The security needs to, how is no one being fined for every week attacking security? Now, we know that they're just local wrestling talent that throw on security shirts and cosplay as security guards. But it's just fun. I've never seen security every week. It's hilarious. I love watching security get their ass kicked. There's something about a guilty pleasure about watching these hapless people who, if they're actual security guards, are some of the worst security guards ever, because they're working with wrestlers who the company's focusing on. The company doesn't give a damn about the security guards and how they look. It's all about the security guards being used. But I get that. But if you're actually a security guard and you're being tossed around this much, and there's like 10 of you who can't take out one guy, then it's a little ridiculous. But it is a guilty pleasure. It is certainly a guilty pleasure of mine. I don't know how you guys feel. Secondly, this tells me that if both of them defied the promise that they made to Adam Pearce, that next week both of them, or one of them, probably one of the two, is going to be banned from the arena if this program continues beyond Crown Jewel, which it might. So if that's the case, then I'm fine with it continuing. If they want to go with Bronson Reed and Seth Rollins for another month, I have no problem with that. If they don't have a bigger opponent set for Seth or a bigger match set up for Seth at Survivor Series, working with Bronson Reed for another month is actually, I think, a great idea. Continues to elevate Bronson Reed. They seem to have chemistry. Let them go, man. So pretty fun brawl here, as I mentioned. Okay, but we have, we have The Miz, and he showed up and tried to apologize to Truth, and Maxine told Truth not to listen to Miz, who said Truth shouldn't listen to Snow White and the two dorks. I guess we're back in 4th grade. Truth said that Miz had a point and then danced with him before dropping him with a slap. And Truth said, good luck with the Wyatts. Y'all gonna die. Truth called Pete Dunne by the name Butch as he walked past if he'd seen Pete. That was pretty funny. All right. Rey Mysterio and Dragon Lee versus Kofi and Xavier versus the War Raiders, Eric and Ivar, in a triple threat for a shot at the World Tag Team titles. Longer match here, 18 minutes. The War Raiders took out Rey Mysterio and Xavier Woods and Kofi, so the War Raiders win, as they should have. Number one, the name is so simple and so compact, and I love it way better than the Viking Raiders. Or remember, they were their Viking Experience. I'm old enough to remember that. So the War Raiders just is so much better and concise, and just a very, very solid name. So I hope they stick with that and they don't try to modify it anymore. Eric and Ivar have obvious chemistry. Now, Ivar was, while Eric was injured, doing a very nice job in a singles role, if you recall. So the matches he had, I mean, he was doing moonsaults and all the rest, which I typically am not a fan of bigger guys trying to do things that they shouldn't. But it made me remember his singles run, as short as it was while his tag team partner was injured. Now they're back together. They're a force to be reckoned with. We know who they are. They have a name that actually isn't laughable. And it's fun to watch. Their entrance is, it's fine. They aren't being referred to as Vikings anymore. So that's I think the key that makes them less cartoonish. And it's just fine. It's fine. So Eric and Ivar, who I think are maybe the favorites here to win the whole thing. But the match was fun. The finish, which I didn't get to yet, we had Kingston set up Lee for the double team move, but Woods dropped from the rope. Woods charged towards Mysterio, who moved, causing him to tumble over to ringside. And then we had Dragon Lee get Kingston in position for a 619 and then performed a flip dive onto Woods. Ray set for the 619. Chad Gable showed up and tripped him, and the War Raiders springboard clotheslined into a German suplex combo on Kingston, and Eric got the victory. So, did Gable really need to be there? I don't know. I do love Chad. I do love me some Chad Gable, though. It wasn't really necessary, but again, this is also not just furthering the War Raiders and their likely quest for the likely destination of challenging for the World Tag Team titles, but also the further continuation of Xavier and Kofi, which has got to be getting close to a boiling point here. We're only got a few weeks here, and I think we're going to be finally watching Xavier turn right after Crown Jewel. All right. So we had, again, and this is kind of the theme here, Jimmy Uso looking for Sami backstage, finally finding Jay outside the building. Jay asked Jimmy if he spoke with Sami. Jimmy pointed the parking lot where Zayn was and speaking with Solo. Jimmy said he told Jay and added that the two of them and Reigns had to handle things. And Dominic walked on the stage. Okay, so a little bit of perhaps defection of sorts from Sami going to the new bloodline. We know that's not going to happen. It shouldn't happen. There's no need for it to happen. The OG bloodline versus the Rogue bloodline is what Survivor Series should be. As I mentioned, no one should turn on anyone. No Jimmy turning on Sami or Sami turning on Jay or none of that. We've been there. It's over. So this was nothing more than just trying to put in the minds of fans, wait, he's just talking with Solo. What's he? What are they saying? Could Sami actually be considering joining that? Of course not. No. All right, Damien versus Dominick Mysterio. So this match was 13 minutes exactly, and interesting match from the perspective of how they left it. Now, Dominick Mysterio gets the victory here. We had Carlito get beat up. He interfered, and he gets beat up with the chair. He rolls to ringside, and that's how Dom got a roll up after a distracted Priest was messing around with the rest of the Judgment Day members, hitting McDonough, Carlito, and Liv Morgan and Raquel showed up, and it was just a Judgment Day mess, as you'd expect. The roll-up wasn't the greatest. I mean, Damien Priest just kind of laid there. Usually you try to create the illusion you're trying to get out of the pinfall, like kicking your legs or something. and he just laid there, which, again, minor thing. But he was rolled up by Dom, and you're thinking, oh, okay, well, Dom gets the victory. He doesn't win a whole lot of matches as of late, so that was a bit of a surprise. And that's, this is the main event here. So you're thinking, all right, that's how they're going to leave it. Well, no, they had Damien go on an absolute tear here and they made WWE fans forget all about him losing, because he grabbed Dom, hit the razor's edge. This is after the match here, after he already lost. He went to ringside and slammed the chair on Dom's back repeatedly. And Priest left the ring, turned around again, and he stood over Dom, and the fans were chanting one more time. Carlito comes in. He got a kind of sloppy South of Heaven, not due to Priest, but rather Carlito on that one, but it was fine. Priest then picks up Dom and gave him the South of Heaven, and this was really about leaving Damien Priest looking strong. Despite the fact that he lost to Dominic here, it tells you that there's more they have in store for Priest. Has he cooled off since his run with the world title? Yes. Should he move on soon from the Judgment Day? Yes. I would say Survivor Series in 4 weeks should be it. I don't know in what matchup, whatever formation they want, finalize it, move on. I'm ready. I think everyone else is ready for Priest to wrap up this program with the Judgment Day. But it did send the message loud and clear that they have more in store for Damien, that they didn't want your lasting image, your lasting feeling of Damien Priest losing to Dominick Mysterio in the main event via a roll-up as the final lasting image. So that's clearly not what they want. It's not what they're going to get, because fans are just going to remember that. And it was fun. It was a fun beatdown by Damien Priest on the Judgment Day. Now, I want to shift gears here a little bit. There's a developing story about Vince McMahon. And no, it doesn't have to do with hush money. It doesn't have to do with any sex allegations, infidelity. We've been through that. Or his health. In fact, Vince McMahon is resurrecting his career here. This is a report that is all over the place. Wrestling Inc.'s carrying it, all the big names, that he's launching an entertainment company that's enlisting former WWE personnel. And we have, according to PW Insider, McMahon is setting up a new entertainment company alongside former executives Brad Blum and Kristen Prouty, who will be involved with the company. Blum said, or was McMahon's chief of staff before his retirement in 2022, when both of them exited the company. Blum then returned with McMahon when the former chairman returned in 2023 to facilitate the merger of UFC and WWE under Endeavor, and then resigned his position in May. The new entertainment company will not compete with TKO Group Holdings, which is the parent company of WWE. It is said to be focused on fiction and non-fiction products, likely meaning movies and television, keeping it far from the sports entertainment world of pro wrestling and mixed martial arts. The company will reportedly be based in L.A. McMahon resigned from his TKO WWE duties in January following the revelation of a civil lawsuit against him. John Laurinaitis and unnamed corporate officers for their role in their sexual abuse, harassment, trafficking of former employee Janelle Grant. McMahon, Laurinaitis, and WWE are currently awaiting the results of a federal investigation into any possible criminal charges that could stem from Grant's allegations. On top of Grant's allegations, McMahon, his wife Linda, WWE TKO Group Holdings are currently the subject of a civil lawsuit claiming negligence in the infamous Ring Boys scandal of the early 90s, which alleges Vince and Linda knew of and did nothing about ring announcer Mel Phillips' sexual abuse of minors. So while I just said that the story has nothing to do with his sex allegations, that's kind of like that's really not the story. This article mentions it, but the real story here is about Vince McMahon's potential new entertainment company that is not about pro wrestling, and that he's teaming up with a former chief of staff, Brad Blum. I don't know who Kristen Prouty was. I don't know what her position was or what she will be in this new company that we don't know the name of or really anything about yet, other than it's an entertainment company. But yeah, it should not be pro wrestling. And it just tells you, is anyone surprised? I mean, is anyone really surprised that Vince McMahon, who's been doing this out of the womb, producing television, that he wants to produce television again? Is anyone surprised? The guy is born for this, love or hate him. And a lot of people have some negative feelings for him, and with some justification, no doubt. But this guy was born for this. This is all he knows. This is all he knows. And you know what? He was damn good at it. If he wasn't, we wouldn't be all watching a multi-billion-dollar company that has affected millions and millions of lives. Okay? So say what you want about him. And it's certainly not me defending any of his actions in the civil lawsuit, allegedly, or potential criminal charges that may come from Janelle Grant's accusations. No, I'm talking about professionally only, right? From a professional standpoint, not his personal actions and infidelities. His professional career was absolutely amazing. And it doesn't surprise me, and it shouldn't surprise anybody that he's going to do this. Now, what space is it going to be in? Is it going to be in the TV space, movie space? I mean, I'm not sure. But yeah, it shouldn't be pro wrestling. That would be absurd to start his own pro wrestling company outside of WWE. I mean, he's nearly 80 years old. And he likely doesn't have a ton of years left on this earth, which will make a lot of people happy. But I mean, honestly, it'll be sad to see when Vince goes. And I would suggest, because once he's gone, that if we can, get Vince on camera as much as possible, interview him, get his take on stuff. And because once he's gone, you can't do that. I really hope that there's a production company out there, and I know there was a whole documentary done about Vince's, all the trials and tribulations, but you can do a whole lot more. You don't think it'd be awesome? You can't tell me that if Vince McMahon started a podcast that you guys wouldn't listen. And before I should take that back. His voice, especially towards the end of his run in WWE, was horrible to hear. I mean, you couldn't even understand what he was saying. His enunciation was poor. I'm not saying he had any disability or anything like that. I think it was just age. On the microphone, he's really hard to understand. But I think maybe in a quiet setting when there's no microphone he has to yell into in front of 15,000 people, just like what I'm doing here in an enclosed room, no one's here, just my mic and myself, then I think it might be worth doing. You just like The Undertaker's doing right now. Look what he's doing. Unbelievable success with this podcast. Opened up. How many stories does he have? The stories that Undertaker has, I mean, times that by 10 with Vince McMahon. You don't think it'd be awesome to hear about the stories of course, everyone's going to try to dig the dirt out, but I'm sure there's a ton of stories he could tell us about, backstage goings on and potential storylines he wanted to do but never could. Some funny stories and road stories and all the things. Sure, keep the dirt and bring it to your grave. I'm not advocating for him to bring that out and bury people. But there's a lot of content that I'd love to hear. Like, how much stuff are we hearing from Undertaker and others that have retired? I hope he doesn't take this to his grave. I want to hear about that kind of stuff, regardless of the fact that he has some issues personally. It would be, I think, a rousing success if Vince were ever to do that. His own podcast. I would love to listen to that as long as his voice can hold up. I would subscribe in a minute, and you guys know you would too. You'd say publicly you wouldn't, but you know that you'd hit that subscribe button behind closed doors, because it'd be fascinating to hear what he has to say with all the, the stories and everything else that we don't know what happened. And, well, when this happened, were you thinking of turning this guy heel, and was it discussed, and how close were you to doing that? It'd be fascinating to hear from the guy that took this pro wrestling thing from local to national to worldwide. Are you kidding me? one of the most successful businessmen in our lifetimes? Of course. It'd be fascinating. So I hope that, like, I don't know what he's doing here specifically with these movies and television, presumably, but I hope he does something on the side where he doesn't take a lot of his knowledge and a lot of his stories to the grave. Again, the things he wants to share, of course, he's not going to share everything. But anyway, because the time's running out. I mean, I really have to say, and I don't know if I'm the only one, but every time that I see a story about Vince, his name's trending on Twitter, I'm like, oh wow, he finally died, huh? Long life and all that. Like, and Vince is a tough guy, but even time will finally defeat Vince McMahon. He won't be able to kick out of that finish move, right? So anyway, just some kind of thoughts here. I didn't know I was going to really talk about Vince McMahon tonight, but that story is making the rounds on X, on Twitter, of course, on all the pro wrestling sites that we all know and love. It's all over the place. So, we'll see what that is. And I had fun here tonight with the Raw review. I'll be back you'll hear the NXT review coming up in about 24 hours or so. And, of course, our preview and prediction show with the mailbag combo show on Friday with preview and prediction of Crown Jewel. And then we'll be off and running. We just got to get past this weekend, guys, and then we're in Survivor Series. So thanks, everybody, so much for listening. If you want to go ad-free, patreon.com/WWE podcast is the place to go on top of Apple Podcasts, which hopefully that feed is straightened out now. Haven't heard too many complaints lately, so let me know. But also WWEpodcast.com is another place. So check us out. Go ad-free. Both places have a free trial, so you can try us for 7 days for free. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for listening, and enjoy the World Series. If you're watching or you care, football, it's a hell of a time for sports. So take care, everyone. Talk next time.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.